Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Welcome to part 9 of my WitchWood card reviews. We're going to be taking quite a close look at Paladin and also the Warrior class today. I've got 5 cards to show, so let's get straight into it. First up today, we're going to look at a couple of Paladin cards. The first one being an 8 mana weapon. It's called Silver Sword. It's rare. It has 3 attack and 4 durability, so instantly your alarm bells start ringing when you see that for 8 mana. And it has the effect of after your hero attacks, give your minions +1/+1. This doesn't seem very good to me, unfortunately. Not a card that Paladin really needs, I don't think. So what it does is it only buffs the minions that you've got on the board. So if you're playing this for 8 mana, it's taking almost your whole turn, if not your whole turn. And you need to have minions on the board. Now, because it buffs your minions when you attack, you can equip the weapon and hold it and not get the buff until you're ready. So for example, that kind of thing would work quite well if you played Silver Sword on turn 8 or 9, and then on turn 10 you played N'Zoth, brought back all your minions, then you attack, they will get +1/+1. The problem with that is that N'Zoth is no longer in the game, so that isn't something that Paladin can do anymore. And also, when you get the buff, those minions can't attack, so if there is a similar effect introduced to the game, those minions are just on the board and can't attack to the next turn, so your opponent can potentially use a board clear before you get use of the 1/1. It seems to me like this is more of just like a card where you win more. If you're already winning and you've got a strong board, you play this, your board strengthens and you can win the game more than you already were. It's not one that if you're behind, you top deck this, you've got no minions on the board, or even if you've just got like 1 minion on the board, it doesn't really seem worth playing for 8 mana. Paladin also has Vine Cleaver, which costs 7 mana. It has 4 attack and 3 durability, so the stats are flipped. But when you're playing it late game, I think the 4 attack is probably more important than having 3 attack, which potentially can't even kill minions at that stage in the game. Also, when Vine Cleaver attacks, you're guaranteed kind of 2/2 because you're getting 2 1/1 Silverhand recruits with it. So, and it costs 1 mana less, which is really important. I can't really see where you would put this because you wouldn't want it in a Silverhand Paladin deck because it does potentially work, but it's just too slow. There are other ways to buff your Silverhand recruits. There's no reason why you would want to run this, I don't think, to do that. Perhaps if we see some different cards introduced or a different type of deck come into the game, but right now this seems like a mid-range or a control Paladin kind of card, but even then I don't think it's one that particularly is very strong, unfortunately. Next up, we've got another Paladin card. It's called Bellringer Sentry. It's another rare one. It costs 4 mana, has 3 attack and 4 health, so the stats are a little bit below average for that mana cost. But it does have a Battle Cry and Death Rattle, so it has an effect when you play it and then also when it dies. And that effect is put a secret from your deck into the battlefield. Now, this is quite a strong effect because it gives you some really strong tempo the turn you play it because you're putting a secret out. But it also is card draw, so you're drawing that card from your deck and then playing it. So Paladin secrets are only 1 mana, so it's not incredible tempo, but that means you're not going to be top decking that 1 mana secret later on in the game. So it is a good way to put it in, and it's the same with the Death Rattle. So 4 mana, 3/4, draw 2 cards and play those 2 cards. So that in itself is quite a strong effect, and we've seen that with the Mysterious Challenger, which has been rotated out now. That was one of the most powerful cards that was ever in the game, and also one of the most powerful decks at the time. And that is a 6/6, and what its effect was to put a copy of each of your secrets in your deck into the battlefield. So that was a lot of card draws a lot of low cost secrets, but also some incredible tempo at the time. And the second issue is, and why I think this isn't as good as Mysterious Challenger, is that at the time there were better secrets for the Paladin. So Avenge was really, really strong, and that's no longer available to Paladin. And at the moment, as the game stands, there are only 4 secrets for Paladin. So they're losing Getaway Kodo, which is their best secret in my opinion. So now they've only got Noble Sacrifice, which is the best one that's remaining, I think. That's the one where it summons a 2/1 minion to protect an attack from your opponent. Eye for an Eye, which I think is the worst, and one which I wouldn't suggest ever putting into a deck. And that is because it just repeats the damage done to your face on your opponent's face, and sometimes that is just useless. But they've also got Redemption, which is the one when one of your minions dies, it returns it to health back to life with 1 health. That can be good depending on which minion you put it on, and obviously when you play this card, the Bell Ringer, you're not going to know which secrets come out, so it's most likely if you get Redemption, it's just going to bring you back a 3/1, which is great, but it's easy for your opponent to remove. And Repentance is the one where when your opponent plays a minion, it reduces that minion to 1 health, which also can be quite strong, but it's very situational. If you play it on turn 4, yes, their 5-drop could be reduced to 1 health, which would be strong, but it's better to play it later on in the game to get one of their big minions, and it's also better to play it when you've got one of your Silverhand recruits, your 1/1 minions on the board, because if your opponent's 5-drop got reduced to 1 health, it means that you're going to have to trade your Bell Ringer into it. It can be good in certain situations, but unfortunately, I think at the moment it's not going to be too great. I think they need to introduce some more secrets, and this card's going to be around in the game for 2 years, so you've got to imagine that they will introduce some more Paladin secrets. There are 4 more cards yet to be revealed for Paladin in this expansion. I'm hoping for dragons. I don't necessarily want it to be secrets, but we'll see. I think as it stands, not many people will play Bell Ringer Sentry, but it could be something that in the future will become kind of like a new deck, a secret Paladin deck. Next up, we have another Paladin card. This time it's legendary. It costs 4 mana, has 4 attack and 3 health. It's called the Glass Knight. It has a Divine Shield by default, so every time you play that, you'll get it. But it also has the effect of whenever you restore health, you gain Divine Shield. So this minion is okay. The stats are a little bit weak. When you play it onto the board, let's just say you never get the healing effect. It means you're getting a 4/3 with Divine Shield on turn 4. That's not too bad. If you traded this minion in twice and killed 2 of your opponent's minions, I think that's pretty good. I think you could play this in a lot of Paladin decks. It is very strong if you buff it, because of the Divine Shield comes even more effective if you can put like a Blessing of Kings on this. But if you buffed it and you managed to get the effect of gaining Divine Shield on it as well, it can be really strong. A card that kind of would stick around for quite a while potentially. Even if you only got the Divine Shield to go back on once, I think it's still pretty good value. The problem with that side of it is that you do have to have healing effect cards in your deck, and Paladin doesn't necessarily have any really good healing cards. So I think probably the best and most likely to be played is True Silver Champion. This is actually a really good card, so could definitely synergize with this one. That's the 4/2 weapon, and it restores 2 health to your hero. It's really good to play because it's very good because the 4 attack's very good to control in the early game. And if it's giving the effect of a Divine Shield to your Glass Knight, then that's great too. So that would be good. They also have Benevolent Djinn, which I don't think is a very good card. It's obviously got a good effect of restoring 3 health, but when you're playing it that early in the game, it hasn't got very strong stats to be able to trade in. And also, you don't necessarily need to heal your face at that point. You might not have even taken damage. And I think that healing effects really aren't as strong in Paladin. It works really well in Warlock because they're constantly doing damage to themselves, so they want to restore their health. But Paladin needs to gain control of the board more than it needs to heal itself, in my opinion. So putting Benevolent Djinn into your deck just kind of means you have to leave something else out, and it's not necessarily worth it. It could also synergize well with the Spellstone, the Pearl Spellstone. This is a card which could be really good, but it was never saw play, and the reason is that it needs to be in your hand to get upgraded, and it doesn't seem like something you can easily do, and you do have to play these slightly weaker health cards to be able to restore health to your hero. So I think if you were to get this, you could put it in a Paladin deck. I just don't know whether the healing effect cards are strong enough to really put them in and replace other Paladin cards right now. Except for True Silver Champion, which I think once Rallying Blade goes, we'll see some more play. Next up, we have a 7-mana neutral minion. It's epic. It's called the Worgen Abomination. And it's 6/6, so 7 mana 6/6 isn't very strong. But at the end of your turn, it deals 2 damage to all other damaged minions. That effect we've seen in the game before with Baron Geddon. Now this is a 7 mana, 7 attack, 5 health minion, so it's got the same total stats. It is a legendary, but at the end of the turn, it does 2 damage to all characters, so your opponent's face, your face, and all minions. And it doesn't have the condition of them being damaged. Warlock also has the Abyssal Enforcer, or did have the Abyssal Enforcer, where you play it onto the board. It's got exactly the same stats as this, but it has the battle cry of dealing 3 damage to all minions, and to your opponent's face and your face, so it's all characters. That was quite a strong card at the time. This one though, however, having that condition just doesn't seem strong enough. 7 mana 6/6, dealing 2 damage to damaged minions. It seems like you could play this in Warrior if you play it with Whirlwind, but the problem with that is then you're playing for 8 mana, you're playing a 6/6 and you're dealing 3 damage to all other minions, which doesn't necessarily seem strong enough in my opinion. It is a way that a warrior can replace Sleep with the Fishes, because that's going out of the game. But I don't think this will see too much play in Constructed, because Baron Geddon didn't see any play really. There wasn't any decks really that used it. I think Primordial Drake does a much better job, because it has that battle cry of actually guaranteeing the damage. It's a dragon, and it has Taunt, and the stats 8/4 can be stronger or weaker depending on what type of deck you're playing. But I think you would rather play a Primordial Drake than this card. It is an end of the turn effect, so if you can get it to survive, yes, you can make it do 2 damage each turn, but that late in the game, a 6/6 minion, I don't think it's going to be one that will stick around. So it will have its uses perhaps, but not one that I think people will be putting into any specific deck that I can think of. It's just too slow, and also too conditional. It's not really going to be strong enough in my opinion. So the final card I've got to show you today is a good one. This is called Town Crier. It's an epic minion. Costs 1 mana, has 1 attack and 2 health, and it is just for the warrior class. But the reason why I think it's really good is because it has a very strong battle cry of draw a rush minion from your deck. So paying 1 mana to draw a card from your deck is very strong, but drawing a specific card, so a rush minion, is even better, because it gets the cards that you want. You know roughly what card you're going to get, and it helps you to plan your turns and make your turns stronger. Now, it seems like Blizzard are really trying to push this new deck archetype for Warrior, and I think that Town Crier is the card that kind of puts it all together and makes this a viable deck that you will see play. Warrior has been so bad in previous expansions recently, and I'm glad that it's coming back. I think it's good to have some variety on the ladder. Now, the cards they've already introduced to go with Town Crier, which we've already talked about, are Woodcutter's Axe, which I said was really good. The Red Band Wasp is fairly decent. Then you've got Darius Crowley and the Militia Commander as well. Now, all of these cards are kind of low cost cards that you can play on a curve, and if you manage to combo them all in a row, that is some huge tempo, which is going to be really hard for your opponent to deal with. So when you're starting the game, you're going to be trying to get the Town Crier in your opening hand and the Woodcutter's Axe, because you play Town Crier on turn 1. It is a 1/2. It's got fairly weak stats for a 1 cost minion. Usually you'd prefer to have 2 attack so that you could kill your opponent's minion, but the effect of being able to draw a rush minion, as I said, is so strong. Then you play your Woodcutter's Axe, then you play whatever rush minion you drew. The Woodcutter's Axe might be able to buff another rush minion, and it just snowballs. And if you get Woodcutter's Axe buff to go on to any rush minion, I think it would really enhance that card. So by turn 5, if you're playing Darius Crowley, you can be in a really strong position. Warlock has a similar card in Kobold Librarian, which is a 1 health 2 attack minion for 1 that does a battle cry of drawing a card. So that in itself is really strong and saw so much play. Like almost every Warlock deck was thinking, right, Kobold Librarian goes in. And that has a downside of doing 2 damage to your face. Whereas the Town Crier just has no downside. It doesn't have a downside effect. It does have downside stats, because I would say in most cases a 2 attack and 1 health minion is better than a 1 attack and 2 health minion, but not in all situations. But what you're losing in tempo on the first turn with your Tempo Crier, you're gaining with the draw of the Rush minion, and being able to play it on curve is what's really going to make this deck work. What will be interesting is building the Rush Warrior deck. How many pieces do you need to put into a Warrior deck to make this Rush deck work? Effectively, Rush kind of replaces removal, so because you can play a minion that can go straight into your opponent's minions, you don't necessarily have to have much removal in the deck. But there will be a case of which Rush minions you need, whether you need other stronger minions. So that's going to be really interesting, kind of trying to work that out and trying to get that deck to work. The only thing I don't like about Town Crier is that it is very specific to one deck. I think if you're playing this, you're only going to want to play it in a Rush deck. Now, it's such a strong card being able to play it and drawing a card that you might be tempted to only put 2 Rush minions in your deck or something if you were playing a different type of warrior. Say if you were playing Darius Crowley, it'd be great to play this. But the problem is if you haven't got enough Rush minions in your deck, by the time you've drawn Town Crier, you might have already drawn Darius Crowley or the other Rush minions. So it does require a few in there. So I think really it will only see play in one type of deck. And I'm not so sure I like those forced synergy cards that aren't sort of available across several different decks. But we've got it, and I'm looking forward to playing the Rush deck. It's really cool that Warrior is coming back into the meta. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think about the new Paladin cards and also the Warrior Rush deck. Will it be strong enough to be played in the meta game? I think it probably will. I think they've put the right tools in there to make it work. So anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow for the next video.